Well, that sucks. AD is out again. Another sprained ankle. Maybe I shouldn't say another, but just another injury in general. Now, initial reports are saying that Davis is going to be out for about a month. This later changed, at least recently, to describing the extent of his absence as indefinite. Now, Brian Windhorst from ESPN, he did mention on the Hoop Collective podcast that the 8-time All-Star is a more concerning injury, at least more concerning than a sprain, and therefore he's going to miss an extended period of time. Now, to quote Brian Windhorst specifically, he said that AD is not going to be out a game or two or even a few. He's going to be out an extended period. Hopefully, it's an injury that he can get some treatment on and get it healed. It's not good. It's not a sprained ankle. It's not a sprained foot. From what I understand, it's something more concerning than that. So for all Laker fans, including myself, this absolutely sucks. Lakers have been on an absolute tear recently, and you would think that for once, maybe AD was able to stick it through for an entire 82-game season and going into the playoffs. But unfortunately, again, AD is just known to be that fragile guy, and all of the weight is now put on LeBron's shoulders, and maybe Russell Westbrook too, to now figure out a way to beat these incredibly tough teams, especially on what we see on the Western region. Now, just looking into some ideas of trades and whatnot, first I do want to mention that Davis, of course, is still pursuing treatment options. The Lakers haven't announced the exact nature of the injury, but multiple sources, again, indicate a loss of at least a month optimistically. Now, with that being said, if Davis misses this extended time, the team may want to put brakes on any serious trade negotiations, at least when considering moves that involve one or both of their available first-round picks in 2027 and 2029. Now, even before Davis was hurt, the team was conflicted internally about sacrificing its future for anything that didn't catapult the franchise back into contention. Now, Davis should get a timeline soon on his injury, but it may not be apparent by the February 9 trade deadline at what level, he'll return. That may lead to the team making some cosmetic changes instead of like a blockbuster trade. Now, the Lakers may look for easier options like a cheaper free agent center, probably DeMarcus Cousins, or whatever the team could bring back for, let's say, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and maybe a second-round draft consideration. Now, looking at this tough market, of course, we know in 2023, there's going to be a lot of free agents that are available. Of course, we want to utilize LeBron James's age and for the amount of time that he's going to remain with the Lakers. We want to take full advantage of that. However, at least looking at this year to see whatever we could salvage until maybe AD comes back and we can at least win a few games and kind of stay within that position of hitting the 9th or 10th seed. It's going to be tough. We'll have to see what Rob Pelinka could do, but we're going to have to hope for the best. Now, last year, the Lakers found an inflated trade market at the deadline with teams looking at the pressure LeBron James puts on a franchise to, quote-unquote, win now. When LA tried to acquire Bojan Bogdanovic from the Utah Jazz before the season, the asking price was a first-round pick. Eventually, as you guys know, Bogdanovic was sent by the Jazz to the Detroit Pistons for simply Kelly Olynyk and Saben Lee without even sending a first-round pick. That's just, of course, Lakers' current reality. Now, they are in a position where they need to pay a premium to improve, and a lot of teams know this, so they're taking full advantage of Rob Pelinka's assets. But this Davis injury only increases the perception of desperation that will jack up the prices even higher just to get some quality players back. Now, this is not to suggest that LA is unique by any means. Making deals in the NBA, it is a challenge nonetheless. And while the trade season may unofficially start on December 15th, which is when most recently signed free agents are eligible to be dealt, most deals wait until the last minute as teams tend to start negotiations with unrealistic demands. Now, I know after reading some articles, one executive described the annual NBA trade market as December prices are astronomical. In January, prices are high, and by February, they are fair. So it tends to trickle down as it meets closer to the deadline, of course, but can Lakers really afford to wait until February? I don't think so. Now, of course, the problem for the Lakers in the absence of Davis is the urgency to act now. Now, you could argue that the urgency was actually already there, with the Lakers being on the wrong side of where they currently are in the season. Of course, they're in 12th place, and after tonight's loss to the Phoenix Suns, where we didn't even play any of the big three, we're sitting at 13 and 17. 13 wins, 17 losses. So basically, we're kind of in a catch-22 situation. If Los Angeles Lakers aren't overpaying now, the teams will just wait until February. But, of course, by waiting that long, we might fall out of playoff contention completely, and that's mainly due to just Davis being out. I don't know how much LeBron's going to be able to keep these guys alive. Now, the question is, can they stay in contention without overpaying for a trade? You know, the situation is different now. Davis might not be healthy enough to even justify a trade this season. So we have to see what's going to happen, you know, in this month that he's going to be out. Now, the Lakers, of course, are familiar with Davis's injury history. You know, he has recovered from injuries in both of the last 2 seasons. But if you guys remember, in 2020-2021 season, he wasn't able to get through the playoffs. And, of course, last year was simply too late. So it's going to be a tough trade. We'll have to see what Rob Pelinka is going to do. Now, quickly diving into at least a few trade ideas. Lakers, they have kind of looked at the Chicago Bulls at potentially being someone that they could trade with. I know they've had close eyes on them, especially considering that I believe they're like 11 and 18 or 11 and 19 now. So it looks like they're kind of plummeting in the Eastern Conference. But the idea is that they might look to trade DeMar DeRozan along with Nikola Vucevic. And if they do so, I'm pretty sure they're going to want Russell Westbrook just to even match the salaries. Now, of course, DeRozan would give Lakers another elite shooter. If we have Vucevic, that'll actually help with our center situation, even though Thomas Bryant has been picking up the slack a lot, and he's looking like a great backup center option as of late. Of course, Vucevic would really change things around. Now, on the other half of things, Russell Westbrook has actually increased his gameplay coming off the bench. I know he's been a little bit up and down with turnovers, but nonetheless, he's been a significant playmaker and getting the bench unit to really score and do well compared to other benches in the NBA. The thing that's a little bit scary is that if you trade Russ and you get DeRozan and Vucevic, you're not really going to have a playmaker coming off of the bench with quality assists. You're only going to kind of depend on maybe Dennis Schroeder if he's pushed down to the bench, maybe Austin Reeves, but at best, I would say these guys give you 3 to 4 assists per game. Don't get me wrong, I love Austin Reeves, but it's going to be tough. Now, of course, we did talk about Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, but at this point, I honestly think it's a little too late. You know, this thing has been in discussion for quite a long time, and at this point, I really don't think it's going to benefit them all that much, especially considering that Indiana wants both first-round picks. And other than that, the only other group, that actually might be in contention for a trade would be the San Antonio Spurs. I wouldn't mind, getting Richardson or Jakob Poeltl as a backup center. But again, it might not be enough to kind of keep leverage for the Lakers to move forward. So we'll see. Rob Pelinka is in a tough situation. The Lakers are going to need to look very closely at their long-term prospects. The team has improved, of course, throughout the season, but if there is no actual trade, and you're going to be stuck not being a genuine contender for the remainder of the year. There has been some speculation going around that this is exactly what Lakers wanted in terms of having AD injured so that they could just call the season off and not trade off their picks. But let's be real, there's so much season left. LeBron still is going to play. Let's not waste them for what he's worth. I should also mention Charlotte Hornets. We did have a slight discussion about them, about getting Mason Plumlee for a second-round pick or two, or that might include Nunn and Beverly, who knows. Or the Lakers still, again, might go after Bogdanovich. But without a first, the return from Detroit Pistons might be closer to like Alec Burks or Nerlens Noel. I can't believe I actually forgot about this one, but New York Knicks Cam Reddish. He might actually be available. And at least he could be a piece that the team looks to retain long-term if this year is a bust. And I think there's been some small chatter about Kyle Kuzma. Even though he's with the Wizards, you guys know he first of all, is an expensive asset to get, but more importantly, I think he likes the position that he's in because he's kind of like the lead alpha role. I mean, not even a role player, kind of the lead guy. If you put him on the Lakers, you know where that goes. He kind of has to be under the wings of Russ, LeBron, and AD whenever he does come back. So, anyway, we will see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's the Spurs. Maybe not. I don't know. I do know that Orlando Magic cannot even legally trade Mo Bamba until January 15th, so that might be late. But ultimately, I'll just wrap it up with this. Lakers certainly have options, but under the circumstances, most of them involve overpaying with no real certainty that Davis will be whole enough to make that trade matter, or at least for a playoff run this season. Anyway, thanks for listening. New video out tomorrow. Take care.